Good afternoon and welcome to the 26th and final user group event of 2020. If you've missed any of our events, please log on to our website and you can access videos for all those events through our event archive. Who would have thought in early March this year that when we were making the sad decision to cancel our annual conference for June, that we would have had such a successful year with fantastic support from our members and our partners. Thank you all very much. It's really been great. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amanda Miller and I'm the manager of the user group. The user group is run by a committee of volunteers who all work for IFS customers. We also have a couple of committee members who work for IFS and who assist us with liaison between our members and the company. The user group is independent of IFS, which allows us freedom to react to requests from our members. So today's subject is HR performance management and training in APS 8. This will be a demonstration of how the Port of Dover utilises IFS APS 8 employee development within the HR module to manage its employee objectives, performance reviews and training. If you'd like to ask any questions during the presentation, please do so using the Q&A option. Please add your name so that we know who's asking, and I'll put all the questions to our presenter at the end of the presentation. If we don't manage to get through all the questions, we will ask for them to be answered after the event. The event today will be recorded and the video will be available to all our members on our website a few days after the event. So that leaves me to introduce our presenter for today, Caroline King. Caroline has worked at the Port of Dover for over 20 years in various roles. She moved into her current role as Business Change Manager in September 2013, ahead of the IFS APS 8 implementation, which commenced in May 2014. Following the initial launch of an HR portal in October of that year, Caroline continued to drive progress and the remainder of the Phase 1 IFS deliverables were launched in November 2015. Since then, she has pursued further benefits, expanding the use of the existing functionality throughout the system. Caroline joined the user group committee in 2017. So I shall hand you over to Caroline. I just need to warn you that Caroline's had a few technical issues today, so if at any point we lose her, please hang on in there and hopefully she'll be back. Over to you, Caroline.
Hi, thanks everyone for joining us. I will take you through today a very quick presentation and I'm going to follow that up with an actual demo in our test environment so you can see it working. So I will start now, and as I say, I do apologise up front if I have some technical issues. So how the components all link together. So there is performance management, but what we've done is we've linked that performance management through to training. The training then links through to courses, and those courses, when they're completed, link through to updating the employee records in such things as competencies, licenses and training history. With everything IFS, I'm assuming some people attending today may not have a huge amount of knowledge of the way IFS works, so I'm going to cover off the fact that before you can start using the tool, you must get your basic data in. Getting your basic data in is important, but you really need to think through what you want, because if you don't, you'll end up doing a lot of cleansing after. So for us, bear with me a second. I'm highlighting the areas we had to create in base data. So performance periods is straightforward. What years you wish to have. You can have quarters, you don't have to have years, quarterly, half yearly to fit with your requirements. You have to set up your performance ratings. For us, we've simply gone, you either met your objectives, partially met, fully met or exceeded. Then you need your performance status. So again, for us, we originally started with planned, started and complete, and then we realised that objectives do change. So it was right to have one for no longer relevant. Then you have to build in your performance indicators. For performance management, it can do a lot more than we're currently using it for, but so I won't be covering off everything, but I will cover off what I can. You also have capability of having predefined objectives and activities, and the advantage of this is that if you've got an objective that you want to apply to a whole department or the whole company, for example, you can create that as a drop-down list. In addition to this, you can tie activities to each one of those objectives. So if they pick one of the predefined objectives, they have a choice of activities that only relate to those objectives. Employee access setup. Now, I found out the hard way on this one that actually it doesn't give access, it restricts access. So what you have to do is you actually pick the status, and then you determine what you want your employees to be able to edit, and what you don't want them to edit, you add into these boxes. So as you'll see, I've got a planned, a started, no longer relevant and complete, and each one of those has to be configured separately. You then, to run a training event, you need to define the course. Now the course, if you think of it as a course catalogue, you're building up a catalogue of courses that you are then able to use time and time again for each time you run a training event. So with regards to the course basic data, the main one for us was the course category, because that course category enables employees to use that as a method of reducing the number of courses being presented in their window when they're searching for something. So with regards to the course catalogue, this not only gives you the ability to use it in a training event, it also gives you the ability to predefine information. So for instance, if someone's going to go on a course, you can say that to do that course, they must have attended something before it, or they must already be competent in something, or they must have a certain amount of knowledge before they attend it, and so on and so forth. You can then say, as a result of this course, the person will become competent in something. You can also say that they will become competent in something provided they have completed a number of courses before that. So you can link one-to-one or many-to-one. Again, considerations. Think of the course and competency prerequisites at the offset. You can go back and add them in, but you potentially double the amount of work and effort. Also, think about this course. What does it make someone competent in? One of the debates that we had here was a training event making someone competent? And the answer is not necessarily. So if there is a competency you have, someone may need many training courses to be classed as competent. So think of all that sort of stuff when you're setting this up at the offset. And then the benefit of doing that is you then have a system that works for you and you don't work for the system. So for instance, the training plan, that should be the bread and butter of this. You should have a plan that you can see everybody who needs training in something, if it's mandatory, whether it's a priority, and you have, as an HR department, you have the capability to see everyone in the organisation in a single place. The advantage of using the objectives form is that you can actually identify training requirements linked to delivering an objective. You can then create the training plan out the back of that, which means that the HR person can see the training events as they're coming through out the back of employee objective setting. The training plan then enables you to group people and connect them to a training event from the training plan. You can add them individually, but the training plan is great for driving, because what that actually does is it updates as the training event goes through its process. The training plan gets updated, so you can always see in the training plan the status of that employee's training need. The next advantage out of linking them all together is that when a training event has been completed, if the individual is marked as having passed, it will automatically enter the training history record. If that event linked to a competency, it will update the employee's record with the competency, and if there's a safety license, equally it will do that. So it feeds from objective right the way through to their employee record and history. Tips. There are many, but here's just a few. Try and drive the organisation to think about the training from the objectives where possible. Use the training plan as your main overview screen. Register attendees through that plan so that you can continually see the status as it progresses. Create the event and make sure you maintain the status, and I'll explain more when I show you that in the demo. Planned events cannot be seen by employees until they have been published. So if you are trying to put someone on a training event and that event is still at status planned, the system in the training plan won't identify it. The participant status must be updated before the event is completed. It is the participant evaluation that updates the employee record. That will not occur. There will be no link and update to the employee record if you do not undertake that evaluation to tell the system whether they've passed or not. And if you try to book someone on a training event who doesn't meet the prerequisites that are set in the course, the system will alert you. It won't stop you putting them on it, but it will alert you to say they don't match that criteria. When we went live with this, we had already bought a product called ClickLearn, and ClickLearn enables you to record the whole process using IFS and then publish it to what we've classed as our learning portal. So what you're seeing here is there's one called Performance Management, and that means that employees can go to this product and see, they get a choice of just looking at it as a document, they can see it as a video, they can be talked through it, they can test themselves, or they can simply try it. So this product really helped the rollout of that. Ooh, I have lost my mouse, bear with me. So now I'm just going to drop off this screen temporarily whilst I take us through and share our IFS test system, and I will try and demo as smoothly as I can the actual process. What I will say, the caveat with this is, if you've never seen it before, I'm going to be pushing through steps that you would never do on a single day, and you as the HR L&D person would never do all of these steps. So the objectives, for instance, wouldn't be you. The plan would, the training event would, and the background data, yes. So it might seem a bit heavy, but in reality, if you're doing it as the days unfold, it's nothing like it's going to look now. So bear with me 1 second. Sorry. There we go. Amanda, can you confirm if you can see that?
Yes, just come now.
Okay, perfect. Right, so IFS Apps 8. I've put some shortcuts up here just to help with the navigation, but for anybody who doesn't know how to use it, you can use this little search button here and go looking by putting in, for example, employee objectives. So we're going to start on employee objectives and activities. And I'm going to use an example of a member of my team. This is test data, so nothing too sensitive. And you'll see at the top, the system already knows this information. It knows who the employee is, it knows who they report to, and I have selected the performance period. To add an objective, you simply click in the objective ID and you click the add button. So I'm going to go, I've got two already in here, but I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to call it 03. It doesn't auto number, so we just have a rule that we use 01, 02, 03. You can create the objective. So in this one, I'm going to put create and establish a new starter IFS training session. I can put the date that I want it to start. I'll assume it was at the beginning of November. So, and I'm going to put it to be the end of the year for completion. The objective assign date, quite often people will run January to December and they're not in on the 1st of January, so you can backdate or change that date if you need to. The field here called target is used if it does performance calculations based on the weight up here and the target. We don't use this, but target is a compulsory field, so we just put 1 in at this stage and click save. Another advantage of this is that you can actually put in the reasons why you think it might not work, why you might not be able to deliver that objective, so your possible obstacles. For me, I'm going to put that Hayley might be unfamiliar with the system. That would be an obstacle of being able to create and establish a training session. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to add an activity. And it's going to be develop knowledge of IFS. And I want her to start that as soon as she starts her objective. And I'll say till the end of the year. Again, with this, it needs a target, so we just put 1, and I'm going to click save. So now what we have is our objective, possible obstacles, and something that I think she needs to do to be able to deliver that objective. And I think to do this, she's going to need a training course. So I'm going to select a training course and assign it to this activity. And I can do that by scrolling through. If I know what the training course is, I can select the ID. And in this instance, I happen to know, ooh, a bit like Blue Peter, here's one I prepared earlier. So I'm going to put her on IFS basic training and save. I'm then going to we'll park that there for a moment. I'm going to show you now how you can select predefined objectives. So a behaviour framework, for instance. So if you've got a behaviour framework that says all your staff are expected to behave in a particular manner, but you've got a member of staff who's struggling with that, you can go to the objective, you can click add, and you can click the list of values. So I'm going to pick one called customer service. Give it the date. Target, as I say, 1. We're going to save that. Now I'm going to add an activity, but this time I'm going to pick the activity that is linked to customer service. So I can pick one of those, pick a date, target of 1, and save. Okay, so again, this is dummy data, but just so you can get a flavour for what I'm talking about. So going back to the one that I've put for with the training event, I now want to get that onto a training plan for Hayley. So if I right mouse button on here, I can create the training plan. And it asks me, do I want to create it for this employee? So I say, yes, please. And it tells me now that it's been created successfully. Okay, so from the management point of view, I have now logged and registered the fact that this member of staff wants to undertake that training, or I need them to undertake that training to deliver this objective. So I'll move on to training in a moment, but what I want to do now is every time you have a review, you can print this off if you prefer to not sit in front of a computer, or you can do it at the computer with in a meeting room potentially. So the self-assessment can only be edited by the employee. As the manager of that employee, you cannot edit that data. The evaluation remark can only be edited by the manager. The employee can't. Comments can be collective. So the idea, what we do is we ask ahead of the meeting for the employee to complete their self-assessment. As managers, we may complete the evaluation remark up front, or we may do it after, and we'll certainly record the comments from the discussions of the meeting. At the end of the year, we do an overview performance assessment, and we've given ourselves a right mouse button option for this. But the first thing we do is we update the performance summary. And it tells us that it's done okay. And you'll notice up here it says poor. In our live environment, we have no such thing, but this is test. And I now right mouse button and I go to my end of year performance summary screen, and I have the ability to score. And if I save that and I come back and I refresh, I now have the score for that. But what we tend to do is we have an end of year summary objective, and we will do that scoring linked to that. Okay, hopefully I'm not going too fast and causing too much confusion. I'm now going to move on to that training plan that I raised for Hayley. So I'm going to say no to that. So I'm going to search for the training plan. Now, if you are an L&D person, you would just populate. You would use this button up here and it would populate everybody. For the purpose of this demo, I've just literally picked Hayley. So you can see on the top line there that today I raised a requirement for IFS basic training. Now, if I right mouse button and I say register training event, it's going to tell me there isn't one because I haven't yet created the event. So the reason for this is it doesn't want to create an event for every single line you have in there. What it waits for is here's your plan. Now, as an L&D person, go away and determine when you need to run an event, how many people are going to go on that event, and then you register the person. So if you look at the line beneath, you can see that Hayley has been registered on a training event that I called test, and that it shows she attended. So it's updated, and this is all updated automatically when the event has been updated. So I'm now going to take you to a particular training event that I prepared earlier. Okay, so here's a training event that I created earlier. Now, when I did the presentation, hopefully you remember that I said you have course catalogue. You use the course catalogue to create your training event. So there is an anomaly in this version of IFS insofar as when you create a training event, one of the compulsory fields is this training duration. So you have to put something in there. However, when you then link this to your course, course is 0001 and save, you can actually come back here. So on this course, you'll see that it is 2 hours. I put 1 day. I'm going to update that from the course information. It tells me it's going to replace it. So now you'll see that my 2 hours equates to a quarter of a day, and it brings a cost over. I can see that there's a maximum of 5 participants, and this is all fed from the base data that lives on this course called IFS Basic Training. I can then go and reserve a room if I wish, so I can pick one of our rooms. And again, these would have had to have been created in the basic data. And it knows what day it is. It's telling me the room has capacity for 40 people. If I save that, I can pre-book some equipment. So if I wanted to, I could drop in here and say, I think I might need a DVD player, and I need it for the event, not per participant. It's internally sourced, and I can save that. The trainer. So I now want to say which trainer is going to be doing this. Now, it knows from the course information who are registered trainers to deliver this event. So in this instance, it's going to be me. I'm going to save that. I can build an agenda if I like. So if it was running over several days, you might want to build an agenda that says start at 9, break for lunch at 12, finish end of day at 5. You could even go down to each of the topics if you want to. We tend not to worry about this too much. Event cost. You know from the course that there's a cost, and whether it's per person, per event or whatever, but you might have other costs. So you may order lunch in and you might want to record how much that costs. So you create your categories in your base data, and I'm going to pick meals, and I'm going to say it's lunch, and then I'm going to say, I've already told lunch is per participant, and I'm going to put £10, and it is British pounds, and I'm going to save. So you can build up these extra costs on top of the actual course cost itself. Then I'm going to look for participants. So at the moment there's nobody, and you remember when I right mouse buttoned in my training plan, and I'm going to go back to that briefly. I looked at the IFS basic, I right mouse buttoned and I went register training event. It said there aren't any. The reason it can't see them is at the moment, that training event is status planned. Remember one of my tips? You must take it to published for anybody to be able to see it. So I'm now going to publish my event. I'm now going to go back to my training plan and refresh my screen. And I'm going to right mouse button, I'm going to register training event. I'm now offered that training event and I say, OK. If I go back and I'm going to click save, it tells me now that the course prerequisite that I've put in my course data is not being fulfilled by this participant. Do I wish to continue? Also, the competency prerequisite is not being fulfilled by this participant. Do I still want to continue? So it's actually telling you they're not really at a status that you've said they need to be before they continue. But I'm going to say yes for the purpose of this demo. It's now telling me that it's updated that training plan on this status. So I say OK. If I jump back to the training plan and I refresh this screen, you will see now that Hayley has been scheduled. She's no longer planned, and that she's linked to the IFS starter training and she has been registered. If I now go back to my training event, and we'll assume that the course has been completed, what I want to do is I want to confirm the course first. So we definitely know it's going to go ahead, and I'm going to confirm. Hayley's come back and said yes, she's definitely on it, so I'm going to confirm her as being a participant, and it's reminding me again she does not meet those prerequisites, so she's now confirmed, and you'll see she's confirmed and the course is confirmed. I'm now going to mark the course as complete. Course is now completed. I now want to confirm that she attended. So when I said about I'm rushing you through this, you would never do this all on the day. The course was today. I would have booked it weeks ago probably. The attendees would have come through dribs and drabs and I would have added them to this event. I would have confirmed the event once I knew I'd filled the course, and I would have confirmed that to the employees. Now, if you look, it's greyed out here because I've moved to completed, but if you look down here, you can send course confirmations and course invitations or course cancellations to the participants directly from a right mouse button here. We don't use this at the moment because so when you look at the templates are still basic IFS templates. But the advantage of if you did use these is that as soon as you have confirmed and right mouse buttoned, they all get that confirmation. And if you had to cancel, they'll all get told at the same time. So I'm now going to mark Hayley as having attended because the course is now complete. And you'll notice they're telling me that they've updated the employee training plan again. So I go OK on that. She is now showing as attended. If I go back to the training plan and I refresh, you will see that shows that she attended and it shows the date. So again, if you use this screen as your Bible, you will always see the status of those employees. If I go back to my training event now, so you could say this is probably the end of it. But if you look at the bottom of this screen, before I completed this course, if I had a maximum number of attendees that this would allow was 5. Had I have had 6 or more people in my training plan wanted to attend this, those who weren't confirmed would have appeared in the waiting list at the bottom. So that if anybody cancels, you can use the person from the waiting list to fill that cancelled space. So having completed the course, you can do an evaluation on the training event or you can do an evaluation on the participant. If you use these screens, you again have to predefine your questions. And having predefined your questions in your basic data, they would be listed down here. We don't use this screen. And on this screen, this is an evaluation on each participant. So Hayley was the only participant. Had there been more, they would have been listed in here. You can do a general evaluation on her, or you can do on the course. But I'm actually going to say via this up here. I'm going to ignore the bits underneath because I just want to show you how it feeds back. I'm going to say that she passed. Do I want to update the competencies if there were any linked? Yes, please. So now I'm going to go and look at Hayley's employee record. Ooh. And I'm going to look at qualifications. So on her training history, I can see immediately IFS basic training, she passed, and I was the trainer, and it occurred on the 19th, and it was managed internally, and so therefore there was no official cost. If I go to competencies, I will see that she has now got the technical skill of an IFS end user, which is competency in the basics of IFS at level novice. If I go, had there been a license linked to this, it would have been in here. So she's got a license but relating to something else. So as you can see, I now have all this information on the employee record automatically out the back of that training event. That is pretty much it in a nutshell. But what I will do is I will just show you the learning portal. So here's our learning portal. I talked about performance management. So within there, we have all these various particular ones, and any one of these will take you to a screen where you can look at the documentation and just go down and see how it works. But from my point of view, I won't allow printing of this data, so there is no option to download. And that's deliberate. We don't want people printing this information off and holding it in a drawer and using it 3 years down the line and having it completely out of date. So their only way to see this data is to come onto the learning portal and see it online. They can use the show me, the try me and the test me options that I talked about. As this is over a live link, I won't run those because they can be slow through this method. But this just made the rollout so much easier. We did do training up front, but this meant that when after their training they had that reference tool, and it was well received. And that's pretty much it. I hope that has given you a taste of how we've used it and what it can provide. Our L&D lady is using that training plan exactly as I suggested. But that's it, unless there's any questions. Amanda?
Okay, lovely, thank you. I shall pop myself on screen for a moment, just briefly. I dropped out of that call a couple of times. I don't know whether that was me or that was Caroline. If anyone else has had any difficulties, I apologise. I think it might have just been me actually. Anyway, I have a first question for you. So have you got further plans to add anything else in the future?
We are constantly looking at how we can utilise the functionality and capability in IFS. So I think the assessments at the end of the training, evaluation forms, we're definitely looking at putting them in the system so that they trigger out the back of the course. And really it's just about building up the competencies and then moving on to doing competency analysis and gap analysis. We're not ready for that yet, but that's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And how big is the difference in modules, screens, options, etc. in IFS Apps 8 versus IFS Apps 10?
Sorry, Amanda, you dropped out on me there.
How big is the difference in modules, screens, options, etc. in IFS Apps 8 versus IFS Apps 10? Okay,
from my understanding, the HR side of things hasn't changed significantly. Some of the buggy things probably have been addressed, and IFS Apps 10 is a much more user-friendly product. It's got a much nicer user interface, but I don't think functionality-wise there's a huge amount, but I'm not on 10, so it's only from what I understand.
Thank you. Who provided the understanding and information on the HR system within IFS and how to use it and apply it? Was this IFS themselves or a part?
Okay, when we went live.
Let me just finish the rest of the question. Sorry. He said, we have been running IFS for 5 years and never been shown anything like this, so much so that we're looking to move away from IFS.
Okay, well, back in 2014 when we started the project, there was very little around on the partner. We didn't really hear much about the partner network. That sort of started to grow a bit later. So we had an HR consultant work with us initially, but we didn't cover any of this. So this is what I've done based on knowing capability there and trying and testing. And I think that's the key to IFS, is that there is lots it can do, and if you understand what it is you need to do and then start playing, we have a test environment that I've just used there, then you can start to develop it. And of course, with the user group, if you've got any questions, you can always put something out on the user group, and other customers are great for sharing knowledge. I often help other customers with HR, well, any type of query, to be fair.
Yeah, so that's on the networking page on our website. And obviously, if anyone would like to be put in touch with Caroline after this event, just contact me and I can put you through to Caroline. Did you use Arena for the employee steps in the process?
No, Arena didn't come in until 10 and we are at apps 8.
Did you use, or do you plan to use, the document management functionality for this process?
We do use document management, yes, heavily.
And how has this been adopted by the organisation? Do you run this tool centrally, or do you your individual managers, departments manage their own teams with this tool?
I'm not sure I quite understand that one. I'm responsible as business change manager to introduce the processes. If we introduce them, we introduce them as a business. So it's not pick and choose. It's this is what we're going to do, and therefore everybody in the organisation is going to do it this way. So with regards to HR, it spreads across the whole patch, so everybody uses it. I often run pilots, to be fair. I'll grab a department that is a heavy user and I'll pilot something with them initially, which I did with this for a good 6 months before we went live. Can I just go back on that document management one? In apps 8 for document management in HR, it's quite sensitive and a lot of people are nervous about it because you cannot hide the title of a document in apps 8. So if you put Caroline King's disciplinary, if someone went into document management, they wouldn't be able to see the document, but they would certainly be able to see the title. I think that was resolved in apps 9 and certainly apps 10. So it's only in apps 8. That's just a warning, really, to anyone.
Thank you. How many employees are you managing with this system?
Around 300.
And somebody has kindly said, great, thanks Caroline, great session, very informative. That's nice.
Thank you.
Do you deliver training via a non-IFS LMS? And if so, do you integrate with the IFS training record?
The training is all that learning portal. So basically anything to do with IFS, we have been building the user guides all through there. Every new starter at this organisation comes to my department on their second day in the company to have what we call GUI training, graphical user interface, the very high level stuff. And then we bring them back about 6 weeks later. If they are people who are occasional users, that's normally enough. If they're people who are regular users, they will get supported by the department they're moving into. But we have spare desks where we have like a drop-in, so they can always come in here. Well, pre-COVID, we had a drop-in where they could come into the office. At the moment, we use Teams for it and support them that way.
Very good, thank you. And one final note says, Caroline helped me and was amazing.
Thank you.
Got a little fan club going, Caroline, well done.
I'm passionate about it because I think there's so much the product can do, and it's too easy with and this isn't IFS specific, this is everything. It's too easy to put a product in, deal with the basics, and not get the best from the rest of the functionality. And I think one of the questions asked a bit earlier, did you get shown how to do all this? The F1 key on your keyboard will load you to the IFS help files, and those help files will give you process maps, which you can click on, and they will show you and talk you through the key functionality. And there are also some, at the bottom of a page, you'll see, I think it's called tips and tricks. If you click on there, there will be some videos, and those videos will be dependent on the version you've got. So if you're in apps 8, it will say apps 8. And quite often there's some bits in there that you can watch, and it just gives you a little bit more information without having to pay out for a consultant to come in.
Another little note says, I think you still see the document title in apps 10 because it takes the file name and creates a doc revision record with the same file name.
Okay, that would be worth checking out with the account managers then, because I am pretty certain that when I raised it from our perspective, that they said that they had resolved that. So there may be something you have to tick box somewhere that you have to do to hide it. Unless, of course, you're in the access group. If you're in the access group, then you will see it. But if you're not in the access group, they had certainly, I'd been led to believe that they had been resolved. So it might be worth double checking, Amanda. Perhaps we can double check that.
Okay, thank you. So, bear with me, the questions keep coming, sorry. Another one, thank you, that was very useful. Have you looked at using IFS recruitment functionality? What did you think of it, and has this changed in later versions?
Okay, yes, we do use the recruitment module. I introduced personnel requisitions. So anyone in the organisation at management level who wants to recruit now has to complete the personnel requisition. We linked that through to case management, so that when someone puts in a request to recruit, as soon as it is authorised, it triggers something into IT to tell them that we have a new starter or a new role, and that they need to consider whether a phone, a computer, laptop or whatever is required, and whether or not the cabling's there. When it gets to the actual recruitment, the interface for the web end is pretty dire. Am I allowed to say that? It's not very good, certainly not in apps 8. So we don't use it for that, and we are currently developing the next phase where they go from an applicant to a candidate, and then a candidate to the accepted person. So I've done quite a lot on that, but we're actually only live with the front bit, which is the personnel requisitions. Okay, lovely. So I think that's all the questions for now. So I hope you all enjoyed that and found it to be useful and informative. Big thank you to Caroline for her presentation, and thank you to the Port of Dover for their continued support of the user group. We're currently very busy making plans for 2021. So if there's any subjects you would like us to include, or if you're desperate to tell us about a project you've been working on, we would love to hear from you. Thank you all very much for attending today, and thank you for your continued support of the user group. Please send us feedback about this event so that we can improve if necessary. Stay safe and well, and hopefully we will see you all in person in the not too distant future. Many thanks. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, bye.